Imagine that you are a child, you are 10 years old, and environment is a word that nobody understands. My job is to train the next explorers of Grandmother Earth to be teachers, to be environmental instructors. That's why I wanted to create a special place to have fun and learn. So imagine, Save Up and Tundra is more like a theme park when you can find all the methodologies and all the tools that you need to be an environmentalist. How can a big tree stay inside a little seed? When you listen about global warming, how can you understand what that means? Sounds difficult. In our classrooms, there are no boards, no chairs, and no tables. So my job is to create games with children and understand how can we protect nature and environment. When a child decides to be the hero of Grandmother Earth, he spends all the weekends of 1 year learning about water, biodiversity, planting, and then he gets accreditation like an environmental instructor. Because I feel that children are the best teachers in the world. I feel that I'm not working. I feel that I'm just doing what I really love. What I really want to do is to give a support for that children who are going to be the future, but they need to take action now. Imagine that you are a child, you are 10 years old, and environment is a word that nobody understands. My job is to train the next explorers of Grandmother Earth to be teachers, to be environmental instructors. That's why I wanted to create a special place to have fun and learn. So imagine, Save Up and Tundra is more like a theme park when you can find all the methodologies and all the tools that you need to be an environmentalist. How can a big tree stay inside a little seed? When you listen about global warming, how can you understand what that means? Sounds difficult. In our classrooms, there are no boards, no chairs, and no tables. So my job is to create games with children and understand how can we protect nature and environment. When a child decides to be the hero of Grandmother Earth, he spends all the weekends of 1 year learning about water, biodiversity, planting, and then he gets accreditation like an environmental instructor. Because I feel that children are the best teachers in the world. I feel that I'm not working. I feel that I'm just doing what I really love. What I really want to do is to give a support for that children who are going to be the future, but they need to take action now.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us and greetings from National Geographic Learning. I am Davita Austin, and I would like to welcome you to our second professional development session of our Back to School series hosted by Miss Princess Lacewell. The theme for this series is equipping students to be prepared, to motivate and inspire our teachers. At National Geographic Learning, it is our aim to provide a professional development learning community which is grounded in research, current trends in education, and provide educators with the tools and resources for an evolving classroom. We hope that you're able to join us throughout the month of September as we share best practices and learn from our peers throughout this series. As you can see on the screen, here are the upcoming professional development sessions that we will have during the month of September, and we're hoping that you can join us throughout each session. Thank you again for joining. And I would like to just remind you of just a few housekeeping things as we start today's session. Just remember that we're joining from Zoom webinar, which means that when you enter, all participants have been placed on mute, and we're unable to see all cameras are off as well. But we want you to engage with us. So please remember to use your chat features, to use the Q&A session as well, and to leverage the materials that Ms. Lace will be showing throughout the session today so that you're able to engage and hopefully be inspired to take some practices back to your classroom. I would like to take a moment to introduce our host, Ms. Princess Lacewell, who is our academic engagement consultant for National Geographic Learning and provides professional development for curriculum, teaching, and learning across the GCC region in Europe. Princess holds a master's degree in curriculum and instruction with a focus in secondary literacy. She has been an educator and school leader for over 10 years in public and private schools in both the United States and internationally. She has an extensive curriculum background in curriculum design, professional development, data analysis, and the integration of English language development. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Princess Lacewell for today's session. Hi, Princess. How are you today?
Hi, Davida. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I am doing great. And welcome to everyone who is joining for the first time, and welcome back to those who joined us for the first session. I'm super excited about this session, super excited about this series in general over the month of September, as we, like Ms. Austin said, provide professional development webinars to equip students to tackle real-world challenges. And today, we are focusing on how we can integrate the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, into the curriculum in order to drive global citizenship. We have a few objectives for our time together. It is our aim, our hope, that throughout this session, you will develop a deeper understanding of how the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, drive global citizenship, that you will explore some strategies to promote global citizenship and the SDGs that can be used in your classroom, and then to be able to implement one or more strategies that promote global citizenship and SDG integration. Now, before we kind of get into that, I have a couple of questions that I want to ask. And the first one, I'm going to do a Zoom poll, and I want you to respond to the question: how many of the UN Sustainable Development Goals can you name? Just tell me, how many of the UN Sustainable Development Goals can you name? You should see that poll on your device. Okay, I see some answers coming in. How many of the UN Sustainable Development Goals can you name? Without looking them up, tell me, how many can you name? Still see lots of answers coming in. Give you another few seconds. Again, without looking them up, how many can you name? Let me go ahead and close the poll in about 10 seconds. If you haven't answered, please do so now. Okay. Gonna end. Oh, still lots of responses coming in. I'll give you another few seconds here. I don't want to cut anybody off. Okay, it looks like the responses have slowed down. I'll go ahead and end the poll. All right, let's see what the bulk of us said. Okay, so it looks like Most of us said all of them. We got some people that said, I can name about 4, some that said about 10. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to ask you another question. How many of the Sustainable Development Goals do you think your students can name? How many of the Sustainable Development Goals do you think your students can name? We're going to do this as a poll as well. I just launched it. How many do you think your students can name? More or less than you? What do you think? Still have lots of responses coming in. Give you another 30 seconds or so. Okay, starting to slow down. We'll go ahead and end the poll. All right, let's see if we think we can name more or less than our students. Okay, so it looks like we're saying significantly less than us. I'm getting 4 to 5, a few, 2. Some are saying, oh, I teach the lower grade, so I'm not sure how many they'd be able to name. Makes sense. Good. All right. Thank you for that. Now we're going to do a waterfall chat. If you were here last week, you should be familiar with this. If you weren't, I will explain it. So what a waterfall chat is, and I'm going to say this now before I put the question up, because I know people get excited. How many, or excuse me, before I put the question up, what I want you to do is I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to type your response in the chat without hitting enter. Okay, so you're just going to type the response. Everybody's going to type their response at the same time. When I say the word, everybody will hit enter at the same time. The word for today's session will be SDGs. Okay, so I'll say SDGs, everybody hits enter at the same time, and we'll see all the responses cascading in the chat like a waterfall. So I asked you 2 questions. How many of the SDGs do you think you could name? And how many do you think your students could name? Now I'm going to ask you to back that up. So waterfall chat, I want you to name as many as you can. Okay, again, do not hit enter. You're going to type in the chat without hitting enter. I'll give you a little bit of time, and then when I say SDGs, you will all hit enter at the same time. And there's always 1 or 2 who forget. So again, type in the chat without hitting enter. Okay, guys, we're not hitting enter quite yet. Type as many as you can without hitting enter. Okay, and I'm just going to give a little bit of time for those people who said they could name them all. Again, this is without looking them up. Okay, SDGs. So everybody should now hit enter. All right, and now I see those responses cascading in the chat like a waterfall. All right. Okay, trying to see if anybody named all 17. Not seeing all 17. Good. Okay, and I hope you guys did that without looking them up. That was the ask. Okay, so The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. What are they? Why do they matter? Why are we talking about them today? So the Sustainable Development Goals, they're basically a call for action for all countries, developed and developing, to promote peace and prosperity while protecting the planet. They are so important because they offer a comprehensive, how do I want to say this, a roadmap to address humanity's most critical challenges, to foster global cooperation, and create a more sustainable and equitable world for current and future generations. Okay, so important, these goals that the UN has created. But where are we? Like, are we close to hitting those goals? Let's look at a little bit of research here. And this comes from the most recent Sustainable Development Goals report, which was released in July of 2023, so only a few months ago. And you can see here, based on these two charts, the goal was to hit these 17 goals by 2030, and we still have so much work to do, right? There are so many challenges that are getting in the way of meeting these goals. Many of the targets are not on track or have regressed since the midway point. So if you look at these two images here, I think it just highlights the importance and the urgency of the efforts needed to stay on course so that we can make progress towards a sustainable future for all. And our students are so important in this matter, right? They also have a voice that can be used to help push us towards meeting these goals by 2030. So let's talk about the importance of students learning about the SDGs. One of the reasons why it's so important is because of global awareness, right? Understanding the SDGs, it raises awareness about the global challenges such as poverty, inequality, climate change, and environmental degradation. Okay, when we teach them about the SDGs, they learn things that they may not have been aware of globally. Additionally, empowerment. So the knowledge of the SDGs, it empowers students to take action and contribute to positive change, both locally and globally. We're going to talk some more about taking action in another session later in the series. Additionally, critical thinking. Okay, learning about the SDGs encourages critical thinking and problem-solving skills as students begin to analyze these complex issues as well as potential solutions. Interconnectedness. So the SDGs, they really highlight the interconnected nature of global issues, as well as fostering a holistic view of problems as well as solutions. As we're going to talk some more about today, citizenship. It promotes responsible global citizenship by teaching values, things like empathy, responsibility, and sustainability. Career opportunities. We have to highlight that, right? Many careers in various fields include sustainability, things like international development, policy, all related to the SDGs. Collaboration. It encourages collaboration and cooperation among students, institutions, countries, in order to achieve these common goals, okay? No one person can ensure we meet all these goals. So it's absolutely will take the cooperation and the collaboration of groups of people. And then future impact, right? Preparing students with SDG knowledge, it equips them to address future challenges and work towards a more sustainable world. So when you think about the SDGs overall, it's so crucial for our students because learning about them, it's essential for a well-rounded education that prepares students for a complex and interconnected global society. And that's what we want for our students. Let's talk about global citizenship. a little bit. We're going to do another waterfall chat here. So again, in the chat, I want you to type what global citizenship means to you without hitting enter. When I say SDGs, we will all hit enter at the same time to see the responses. So in the chat, what does global citizenship mean to you? But don't hit enter just yet. Oh, we're doing a great job this time. Usually when I do waterfall chats, there's always one or two who hit enter too soon, but we held off a little bit. Oh, now we have some coming in. Again, remember, do not hit enter. Type what you think in the chat without hitting enter. Okay, give you another 20 seconds or so. All right, SDGs. There we go. Cascading in the chat. And I encourage you, when we do these, scroll up and kind of read through and see if the answers are similar to yours. I'm seeing lots of people who take care of the world. I'm seeing lots of people who are active, who are responsible, people who are open-minded. Good. Global-minded, well-rounded. These are all great definitions. Before I get into kind of my thoughts when it comes to global citizenship, I just want to watch a quick video about global citizenship.
Ha, let me think about that.
This is a difficult question, I must say.
A global citizen is, in my opinion, a global citizen is someone who knows he or she is not only part of his family or her city or her country, but part of a bigger scenery of a bigger world.
A global citizen is somebody who has respect for himself first.
Global citizen is a citizen in the globe. This is about building our understanding about the globe, about the world, its complexities, its dynamics.
Global citizen is one who has the skills, the knowledge, and the values to be able to live well with people who are within his or her community, within his or her nation, and globally.
Okay. A global citizen is unique as everyone else.
Okay. So if you watch that video, a lot of the things that we said in our waterfall chat are things that came up, right? People who are responsible. I think somebody said people who recognizing that we have similarities even though we're different. And all of that is absolutely true. So when I think about global citizenship, I think about someone who is aware of and understands the wider world, somebody who works with others to make our planet more peaceful, to make our planet fairer and more sustainable. and a person that takes an active role in their community. Again, this is what we want for our students. We want them to be global citizens, but just wanting that is not enough. Okay, we have to really understand why global citizenship is so important and cultivate an environment that promotes global citizenship. So let's look at this a little bit more and why global citizenship is so important. We live in an interconnected world. Pretty much everything we do is connected. The technology we use interconnects us in every way possible, through print, through sound, through visual mediums. We can talk over FaceTime, Zoom, like we're doing now, with someone across the other side of the world. We can tweet and find friends on social media. We can learn how to cook a Thai curry or see the next up and coming pop star by watching a YouTube video. We can sit in our office conducting a meeting with people in China, in Egypt, in Brazil, all at the same time. The clothes we wear, the goods we buy, and the food we eat comes from all over the world. Shipped in on planes, boats, trucks, made in factories from Asia, America, Middle East. The move of people and rise in immigration means now more than ever, we have the opportunity to interconnect, with people of all cultures and backgrounds. Additionally, we rely on each other in so many ways, right? Because of that interconnectedness and the expanding globe, we simply can't survive on our own anymore. We cannot live in a bubble where we only buy goods from our own countries or only source raw materials or engage in media. We simply have to collaborate on mutual interests. Being connected in this way means we now rely on each other more than we ever did to ensure that we succeed, right? We simply have to work together in order to sustain our well-being. No one's alone anymore. There's so much interconnectivity. And we rely on each other for all kinds of things. Personally and as nations, across trade and the economy, for political stability, for human and natural resources, for sustainability, for protection, for innovation. We rely on each other for technology, for peace, for communication, for ensuring health, for energy, and for aid when disasters strike. So it's so important that our students recognize this and want to be a part of this global community that exists. We want them to become active global citizens. In order to do that, they need knowledge, they need skills, they need values, right? So they need to develop an understanding of all aspects of the world. They need to develop the skills and competencies across all aspects of thinking and communication. And then when it comes to values, we need to ensure that we focus on developing a core set of values and beliefs that ensure that our young people feel empowered to contribute in a positive way on the planet and towards their future. And one way that we can help them do this is by integrating the Sustainable Development Goals into the curriculum. Again, these provide that shared blueprint for peace, for prosperity, for people and the planet now and in the future. Our students are crucial if we want to hit these goals by 2030. They can do things like advocacy, raising awareness, and really overall positively contributing to a more sustainable and equitable world. So before I get into some tips and some strategies and some ways that you could potentially integrate the Sustainable Development Goals into your curriculum, I want to hear from you. We're going to do one more waterfall chat. And I want you to tell me, currently, what are you doing now? What are some ways that you integrate the SDGs into your curriculum? Okay, I want you to type your response in the chat without hitting enter when I say SDGs, Everyone will hit enter at the same time, so the responses cascade in the chat like a waterfall. So, what are some ways that you integrate the SDGs into your curriculum? Put your responses in the chat without hitting enter. Again, type your responses without hitting enter just yet. When I say SDGs, we will all hit enter at the same time to see the responses cascade in the chat like a waterfall. Give you about 10 more seconds. Okay, SDGs. Love it. Lots of good responses. Again, I encourage you, scroll up, see what your colleagues are saying. You may get some great ideas that you can use in your practice as well. So I'm seeing things like projects. I think I saw that a couple of times. Research, art lessons. I think I'm seeing projects a lot. Exhibitions, absolutely. Okay, seeing lots of projects. Very nice. Okay, let's get into some tips and strategies. So the first thing that I will say, and I feel like this is a great place to start, is curriculum mapping. So identify where SDGs can naturally fit within your existing curriculum. So look for relevant subjects or topics. I want to stress this, this last point that I have here. No need to start from scratch, right? Please don't go away from this and saying, I was on this webinar and the host, Princess, said we need to redo our curriculum and put the SDGs in. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is look for natural ways to fit the SDGs into what you're already doing. It's the middle of September. We've already started school. We don't have time to redo our entire curriculum, but if we can look through our curriculum and see natural points, natural places where the SDGs fit, that's great. And so I'll show you some examples. Also, this picture that I have on the screen of this map, I have put the template, the Excel template, on the Padlet that we'll share at the end of the session. So you will have access to this template if it is something that you want to use in your own practice. So here's some examples. Say you're teaching a math class and you're doing a performance task about estimating animal populations, right? They're looking at different animals. You can tie in life on land really quickly. Another example in math, say you're doing performance task on heat index, you can absolutely tie in climate action. And when I say tie in, this could mean a simple activity, maybe watching a video to help students learn more about the SDG. And on the Padlet, I have uploaded a ton of resources for you where you can find videos, where you can find activities that you can do in your classroom. In science, say that you are doing a lesson on the desert food chain. You can, again, talk about life on land and how everything is connected, some of the problems we're having. Or in a unit where you're talking about water for everyone, and I think you kind of see where I'm going here, you can absolutely tie in clean water and sanitation. And so you may be asking, well, how can I tie it in? Give me an example. Absolutely. So here's one way you can tie it in to this unit, for example. So here's a quick strategy called Creative Question Starts. This is a visible thinking routine. So you can take goal 6, ensure access to water and sanitation for all, and have students brainstorm questions about the SDG. creative questions. And then they're going to review their list and discuss the most interesting ones as a group. They'll then come back and reflect on what new ideas they have about the SDG that they didn't have before. And you'll see here, there's some creative starts that they could potentially use to form their questions. Another thing that can be done, and I think this came up the most when we went through some of the strategies and things that you're already doing, SDG-based projects, absolutely. So assigning projects or assignments that require students to research, to discuss, and propose solutions related to specific SDGs. Another thing I would encourage is to relate the SDGs to the local community as well as the global community, and encourage students to identify ways to make a positive impact in their immediate surroundings as well as the wider world. Because that's important too, right? We don't want to think globally all the time when there are some things that we can do right in our backyards, right here at home. So I encourage you to do both, relate to the local community as well as the wider world. So let's look at some examples. So this is a STEM project, and I think I saw this come up a lot. Many people were mentioning STEAM projects. Absolutely. So this is a project that students can do where you can relate it to life below water. Okay, so they would be designing this aquaponic system, talking about, fish and how they need to eliminate wastewater. Again, you're already doing the project, relate it to the SDG, maybe do a quick activity or highlight the importance of this SDG with students. Another example, whatever kind of projects you're doing, some people use RAFT, some people use GRASP, but here's an example of GRASP. Here's a GRASP task that I related to Dubai, right? So the students are trying to convince the Dubai South Planning Council to implement a recommendation to further develop the community. Give them a role. In this example, they're a city planner, give them the audience, and then the situation. Okay, so the planning council is trying to further develop the community. They are asking city planners to come in with suggestions and recommendations of what they can do while keeping sustainability in mind. Okay, and then you give them their product. Okay, this would be a good example for maybe an English class, or you could kind of modify it for a different subject. In this example, they would develop a 3 to 6 minute multimedia presentation. They would give to city leaders with the goal of convincing them to go with their recommendation. Again, directly relates to SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. Here's another example of a GRASP. Again, you could use RAFT and make, slight changes. This is something that could be done in a visual arts class. So the students are going to create a pop art collage and artist statement that highlights a social or societal issue, either locally or globally. Okay, so again, they have their role, their collage artists, they have their audience, exhibition visitors, and I've kind of linked this to the local community. You can absolutely modify it for your community. Our Circle Avenue is hosting an art exhibition. They want to raise awareness about social and societal issues locally and globally. Okay, so students would choose one social or societal issue that they want to highlight and make their pop art collage and artist statement. What's really nice about this example is that because it's open, students have a lot of choice here. It can relate to a number of SDGs, right? Based on the issue that they choose, right? If they want to do something about hunger, it will relate to zero hunger. They want to do something about poverty, it will relate to no poverty. So there are a lot of different ways that they can go. Okay, and before I move on, I just want to highlight here, when it comes to projects, when it comes to the first thing that I said about curriculum mapping and finding natural ways, oftentimes slight tweaks is all it takes. For example, I was working with a group of English teachers a few months ago, and they had a project that they were doing where students had to write an essay about a water issue in like a specific community. And I felt like it was a bit limiting. So I just kind of made some recommendations. We kind of brainstormed it and worked through it. And we tweaked it to where students could choose any type of infrastructure issue, which includes water, but it also includes roads. It also includes things like electricity. And then we opened it up to the globe. So it wasn't just the community of the teacher's choice. Students could choose if they wanted to research an infrastructure issue in the UAE, if they wanted to research an infrastructure issue in Nigeria or India or wherever they wanted to, which was really nice because it became more relevant for students. Some of them, are here from other countries and they wanted to research issues in their home country. Some people wanted to do the UAE, but again, students were doing the same exact thing, same standards, right? But we tweaked the performance task just a little bit. We made it more open for students, and we were able to include the SDG, which was the one about infrastructure. All right, so what else can we do? Global perspective. So include diverse perspectives and case studies from around the world to emphasize the global nature of SDGs. Okay, it's so, so important. Let's get some examples. Okay, so you could have students read an article or watch a video about how Singapore is tackling their clean water issue. Here is an article about the Middle East, the UAE specifically, and how they're tackling the water issue. And then here's another article about why desalination, which is what Singapore was doing, may not work in Colorado in the United States. So they're kind of looking at this issue of getting clean water from seawater from different angles, from different perspectives. And then they'll discuss, right? They'll share what they think. And in their opinion, what is the best technique for getting fresh water? Again, I mentioned this last week, but absolutely with English language learners, give them some discussion frames to use to help them confidently articulate their responses. And then this could be directly tied to clean water and sanitation. Here's another example. I mentioned case studies. Have students kind of examine what people in the field are doing. So here's a particular explorer, and his work could be tied to life below water. Okay, he is talking about the Mediterranean Sea. Here is another explorer, and what she's doing. She has made tremendous advances in medicine and the diagnosis of diseases. So that can be tied to good health and well-being. So again, finding those links. Classroom discussions are another great way. So fostering open discussions on SDG related topics and encouraging students to share their thoughts, their concerns, as well as potential solutions. So let's look at some examples here. So we could have students look at this image, right? And just ask them the question, what do you think this place looks like when there isn't a drought? Okay. It's very plush when there's no drought and green. But you can see here, people can literally walk, ride their bikes through this village, right? Here's a quote. No water, no life, no blue, no green. Have them discuss what this quote means. Have a rich discussion about that. And it can be linked easily to clean water and sanitation, as well as climate change, right? Because that one's about drought. I didn't put that on there, but it can absolutely be linked to climate change. You can show students an image, use some visible thinking routines. One like, what makes you say that? What's going on? What do you see that makes you say that? And have a rich discussion. You can use the same image and do a see, think, wonder. What do you see? What do you think is going on? What does it make you wonder? And this could be tied to maybe an art unit where you're going to talk about making art projects with recycled goods. Okay. This could be tied to SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. Another thing that can be done, take an interdisciplinary approach. Okay, so promote cross-disciplinary teaching to emphasize the interconnectedness of the SDGs, which we talked about a little bit, and encourage collaboration among different departments and teachers. When you can get multiple departments together to bring in different learning, different topics from different subject areas, you can come up with great, rich projects that include learning from both areas that can be directly tied to SDGs. So let's look at some examples of what you could do. So here's an example from English and design. So in English, students would look at various readings about social issues and explore how humans can combat these social issues. Okay, they would learn about argumentative writing, speaking techniques, things like that. And then in design class, they could explore mobile app creation using the design process. So they would inquire into the function of their application, explore if it's capable of solving the social issue. So throughout this process, they learn both things in English and design. They're going to choose a social issue that they would like to solve in their school or in their community, and design a mobile app and write and present a persuasive pitch to the community so that others will begin using the application. Again, we've tied in multiple subject areas. We've tied in learning and teaching from different subject groups. And we can directly link it to multiple SDGs because, again, this is open enough to where students can choose the issue they want to tackle. Let's look at another example. This is an example between science and design. So students could explore renewable and non-renewable resources. They could analyze causes and effects of pollution, and then design. They could use the design process to generate ideas, test theories, and create a solution to an authentic problem. So again, you take the learning from both subject areas, put them together, and then students could design and create a net zero energy building. Obviously, it will be a model, but as a way to help reduce carbon emissions, directly tied to affordable and clean energy. So again, oftentimes when you combine multiple subject areas, it becomes more rich, and you're able to get these projects that are really powerful and impactful for students. This is something they could absolutely do, and they could even present this to leaders in the community to implore them to actually build and develop net zero energy buildings. And then goal setting and essential agreements. So encourage students to set personal goals that are related to the SDGs and track their progress throughout the academic year, and then recognize and celebrate students' contributions to SDG-related activities to motivate further engagement. So we often do a lot of goal setting and essential agreements at the beginning of the year about, our classroom kind of shared agreement that we're going to abide by during our time together. But why not have another one related to what we're going to do to promote the SDGs? Okay. So here is just a simple essential agreement template, and I put this template on the Padlet that we will share with you. But it's just something that you could come up with students. We value, and the template will be blank. I put the example, we value open-mindedness, so we put aside our differences and listen to others' opinions. We respect differences and do not judge others. But you can absolutely have some more in here that are directly related to the SDGs. Again, simple ways that you could include and tie in the SDGs. And whatever goal-setting template you're using with your students at the beginning of the year, take that same template, have them create SMART goals around the SDGs. All right, so I want us to look at this cartoon here, and we're gonna do our final waterfall chat for this session. What does the cartoon mean to you? What does the cartoon mean to you? I want you to type your response in the chat without hitting enter. When I say SDGs, we will all hit enter at the same time so the results cascade in the chat like a waterfall. So go ahead and type your response in the chat. What does the cartoon shown on the screen mean to you? I really want you to think about this. Really look at what's going on here. What does it mean? Don't hit enter just yet. Okay, SDGs. Where, how? No clean water. Absolutely. Save the earth. We need clean water. We need to avoid pollution. Absolutely. All of those are relevant. Recycle, go green. Great responses. Right. So, and it's not that simple. Just add clean water. Sometimes that's hard to find depending on where we are. But there's no switch, right? We talked about these 17 goals that we have in common that we're trying to achieve by 2030 that are so important for sustainability, for peace, for the future generations, but there's no easy fix. It's going to take hard work and commitment, and we need all hands on deck. So that includes our students. So it is crucial for us to absolutely get them involved in this process. And I want to end here before we go to a quick Q&A with this. Unless we act now, the 2030 agenda will become an epitaph for a world that might have been. And this is the Secretary General of the United States. So we don't want to look back and say, man, if we would have just focused on those 17 goals, we wouldn't be here now. We want to take action now so that we're not looking back with regret. And by integrating the SDGs into your curriculum, in some of the ways that I've shared, you can absolutely help your students understand the importance of global sustainability and empower them to be active agents of positive change. And we'll talk a lot more about being change agents in a later session. But we have to ensure that the SDGs become an integral and ongoing part of our curriculum. It cannot just be a one-time effort. All right, thank you so much, guys. And now I'm going to open it up for a quick Q&A. If anybody has any questions that they would like to ask, now is the time. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Princess. I'm seeing some of the comments in the chat. Everyone is thanking you for this wonderful presentation. I just love some of the ideas that you gave regarding the impact for education and how we are all global citizens around the world and how we can make an impact, and how students at any age, I love some of the examples that you gave, even at the early primary and KG level, that many of those strategies could be used within the curriculum at even the lower level. So thank you for sharing some of those examples.
Thank you. I'm seeing some questions here. Somebody asked, how can we simplify the SDGs to 3-year-old learners? That's a great question. And in the Padlet that I will share here in just a few minutes, I have provided a list of resources, and you will find activities that can be done with students at all age levels. Videos, there's like a primary video as well as a secondary video, some of the resources. So I will absolutely provide some rich resources that you can use for students of all ages. So thank you for that. Somebody asked about, go ahead, Davida.
Oh, go ahead, Princess.
Somebody asked about lesson plan examples. Yes, I have provided that on the Padlet as well. So there are examples of lessons that incorporate the SDGs. So lots of information on that Padlet that I will share. And I think now is a good time to share it. Here is the link.
I will share it.
Thank you, Davida. She will post that in the chat. So tons of resources. There's a column on there that says resources. You'll find, as I said, videos, lessons, the template that I shared today that you can absolutely use with your students.
And Princess, one of the other questions that I just saw was, will we be sharing the presentation with everyone that attended today?
Yes, absolutely. I will post the presentation, all of the slides on that Padlet. So bookmark that link. I will post the presentation there. We will also post the recording there. You will also get an email from Zoom with the recording link, as well as the Padlet link. And the question, I can't believe we haven't mentioned this yet. Certificates, absolutely. Your certificates will be coming as well. In the next few days, you will get your certificate. So absolutely. Thank you so much. Any other questions come in, Davida, or do we answer them all?
That's it for now. We've answered them all.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Just a reminder, we have 2 more sessions coming up in this series, the 19th and the 26th. And next week, we'll be talking about project-based learning in more detail. So we mentioned SDG projects this week, but we'll go into a lot more detail on the next session. I will leave you with my contact information. Please feel free to reach out if you want to discuss any of these things deeper. Much appreciated, and have a great evening.
Last question. I just saw one that just popped through. How do we know that you attended? We, because you registered for and signed up for this webinar, we will receive all of your information with your emails and all of your contact information. So as Princess said, you will receive a follow-up email, and that's how we will get information out to you regarding certificates, our website, so that you can have the video, and also Padlet information that will be provided there again as well.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Hope to see you back next week. Bye.
Thank you, Princess.